Hello, and
Right.
welcome to the next episode. So now it's episode number 2, and I want to welcome you to the to this business systematized podcast, Lance. Hey, Lance, can you introduce yourself and tell a little bit more about your backstory? I mean, how you started the company, or how you got involved in it, and how you led that road.
Good as gold. All right. Thanks for having us. I wish you all success with what you are doing. So, I'll be as brief as I can. We started EarthCruiser in 2008 in Australia, and it was almost an accident. It wasn't supposed to become the business that it is. That wasn't our intention. Is that my personal background is in off-road travel, travel in general, off-road. I would say extreme off-road events where you're definitely winching yourself between tree to tree and crossing rivers and all that fun stuff. That's the sort of stuff we enjoy. I met my wife in a Malaysian jungle with those kind of people. And so we had sold a quite successful business in the transport industry in Australia, and we were preparing just to go take some time off and travel. It's what we wanted to do.
Mhm.
And with my background in vehicle building, transport industry, and the off-road adventure travel stuff, you know, it we looked at vehicles to buy, and there just wasn't anything that was going to do what we needed. And so we built one, and that formed EarthCruiser, and that over time has become the company that it is now.
Mhm.
So it's interestingly that we we're a company that was formed from the people who just love to do it, and that in itself can be a really bad thing because it wasn't a case that we had right now here's a gap in the market and here's an opportunity to make a ton of money. That wasn't the case for us. It was that we feel that life is short. We like to make money,
Mhm.
but we also understand that life is short and there is no first prize for being the richest man in the graveyard. And so we thought, let us use the skills that we have, build the vehicles that we want to build, and essentially do the both. The old story: if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. So
Yeah.
it was along those lines. And so uh, that's the start of Earth Cruiser. My wife is American, and she wanted to come home to America, and so I used to commute backwards and forwards from Australia, keeping the business going in Australia, Earth Cruiser,
Mhm.
and so Michelle could spend some time with her folks. I was commuting backwards and forwards every month or so, which is it's a long commute from
Which is a
Portland,
crazy
Oregon
thing
to
to do.
Brisbane,
Yeah,
Australia.
I cannot imagine that kind of commute. Okay.
That's the thing you do. So anyway,
Yeah.
so I was quite literally running a factory from remote control, which was it's ridiculous. You
Mhm.
shouldn't do that, but we felt it was the right thing to do. So Michelle had to spend some time with her family. Somebody heard that I was in the United States, and would I build them an Earth Cruiser for America? And I said, well, why? I mean, most people in America tell us that there's nowhere to go. All the highways been, you know, paved over. There's no remote travel, which I thought was crazy because again, flying so much, you fly over America, and there's tons of open land. And
Yeah.
what, and that was kind of the collision for the company in a good way. Whereas the recreational vehicle industry in general had I would say educated, trained, marketed to their customers that they were to travel basically between KOA parks and destination travel, if you will.
Mhm.
Whereas our products were very much non-destination travel. You just go wherever you want to go. It doesn't matter. If you want to go across the jungle, go across the jungle. If you want to go across the Sahara, go across the Sahara.
Mhm.
And so that is as succinct as I can be in the backstory of EarthCruiser. Is that we have been a company that appeals to people out of the mainstream who want to do things differently, and I wouldn't say it's a passion project. I think that would be unfair. I think it has appealed. Our stories appeal to people who want to live differently and feel that there's a different
Mhm.
way. So I'm not sure if I fully answered your question properly, but I want to sort of frame the rest of our conversation where we come from. So it wasn't let's go and build this, billion-dollar business because
Yeah,
we see
yeah.
this opportunity. It wasn't that. It was that this is what we want to do, and people were drawn to it. I mean, it's almost a field of dreams, build it and they will come. There was a little bit of that in the early days of EarthCruiser.
Actually, I mean, if you think about it, a lot of big companies who became billionaire companies, like Microsoft, as an example, they were not trying to build a company from the get go. He just loved to do what he did at the beginning, or like Apple company was formed the same way at the beginning. Like, a lot of companies were built like from garage kind of a thing because they just loved to do what they did. Right. Eventually, that turned into like Bill Gates. He found his protege and the money investor to start the actual company at the time, but at the beginning he was just loving what he loved to
Sure,
do at the time. So like
sure.
it's very similar to a lot of people. I mean, even my company, I started because I loved to figure out how to trade and not to lose money. So it's not because I was looking for like, oh, how do I become a billion-dollar company, or how do I extract as much money as possible from people. No, I was trying to, hey, how much I extract as much as possible from the market and not lose, right? So
Sure,
it's a
sure.
different idea. So it's almost the same for you, like So that is why I think that is why people are drawn to you, which actually leads to a natural question because you were especially commuting so much. How did you systematize things? I mean, how did you come up with a way to remote control the whole business?
It, so, it, um, uh, sorry to start over. It was interesting for me. So that in Australia, there's been a strong push towards trades, skilling. Australia, very small economy. It has its first world economy, but it's relatively small, and so skilled trades is critical. There's not the mass of people. You need to have skilled people who can actually do the job once and have it done properly. And so
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of emphasizing skills. So what happens there, though, is that there's also a fairly strong entrepreneurial spirit where the subcontracting is very, very popular, where you may not necessarily want to have, if you're a relatively small company, you don't really necessarily want to have employees. It is often makes more sense to have contractors
Mm-hmm.
in skilled positions. And so that's how we did it. We set up the company very specifically with that in mind, where we could have be very honed on the skills of whatever it was, be it electrical, engineering, whatever it was, be very clear on those skills that we wanted, and that simplified our processes because we
Mm-hmm.
didn't
Mm-hmm.
have to concern ourselves legitimately with all of the other things that can really trip you, whether it be workplace health and safety, just the minutia of running a company and keeping a good culture of an organization. So critical, but we were again doing it remote control. Want to be very customer focused. The customers are very passionate about what they're doing. They want to know the people building their vehicles. That
Mm-hmm.
absorbs a terrific amount of time in a good way. So how do you do that and still be efficient and build vehicles? So we got very, very good at contracting, and
Mm-hmm.
that's how we did it. Is that so? The contractors, their scope of work was very clear. They knew exactly what they were supposed to do. The bill of materials was very clear. You color within these lines. This is how this is done,
Mm-hmm.
and that's all the rest of it. Leave the interpretation and the communication to the customers, to us. We will do that. Well, it was primarily me at the time, and that's how we did it. So that may seem like an over. That's pretty ABC. That's pretty baked straightforward. But in a manufacturing, and particularly automotive manufacturing, you just don't do that. There was
Mm-hmm.
no way that we could, no book I could buy to go, this is how you do this. We were forced to have to do that purely because of family matters, and that's what we
Mm-hmm.
did. And then that made it relatively easy. So I had a handful of people who, small business, like-minded, took care of their people, also quite excited about the vehicles we were building, critical.
Mm-hmm.
And so the communication barriers were down, the trust level very high. This is what we're going to set out to do. Now we've got almost a little cohort of small companies all marching in the right direction, and we're all trying to figure out between ourselves how we can make it better for each of us. So when the scope of work, that's clear, but how about the cadence of when a vehicle went where, how long should it stay there
Mm-hmm.
to get such and such work get done on it? The systemization was a collaborative effort, and I think that was a big part of our success. Is that it wasn't about organizations trying to fight with each other. It was, look, time's precious. We all know what we're supposed to be doing here. Let's figure out how we can work together and keep this moving. And
Mm-hmm.
then on top of that, we had, again, because it's very passionate, people were very excited about it. There's that how having the customer interaction close. We didn't say to the customers, you can't visit. What we said, customers, please visit so and so contractor, but understand, don't get in their way, because they've got a set amount of money they've got to get this done within. Don't take up too much of their time, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
go and see them, and that's okay. And that was
Mm-hmm.
part of that communication. And I think that's what sort of built that grassroots um, project, wrong word, a grassroots company where people are invested both financially and emotionally in the product of the end result. And
Mm-hmm.
there's plus minuses to that, but probably that's the best way I can explain how we systemized it. Is that we didn't try to tell other people how to do their job. We found people who knew how to do their job. Then we figured out how they could do their job with others. And it is not that different to a very good general contractor in the building
Mm-hmm.
trades. But I just don't believe it had been applied before in automotive manufacturing.
Mm-hmm. All right, which is great. Yeah. So
But
you,
does that
yeah,
make sense?
it actually does make sense. Yeah, a good analogy with a general contractor, because if you are suck at the job, you can't really find the contractors who will work together for you. But if
Mhm.
you really know how to move it around, you can accomplish the project without yourself lifting the hammer and, and nailing anything for
Exactly.
yourself, right? So that's all
Exactly.
right. Yeah.
So our role became more project management rather than I guess that's probably the best way to say it. And that
Mm-hmm.
worked. That worked for quite a period of time. Uh, it was interestingly not something that worked for us in the United States, and that was a huge learning curve for me
Really?
because,
Yeah.
yeah. So and again, and it's not one's better than the other. That's not the point of my statement. It's just things are different,
Mm-hmm.
and with all things change, and you've got to sort of figure it out, right? But we didn't know where to go to figure it out, so we were very much learning on the go. It was pretty
Mm-hmm.
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So not the one is better than the other, but Australia again with the trade schools, etc. So a vehicle builder is a trade course in Australia. So you can go to school, you can learn to be a vehicle builder. I mean, that's what we
Mm-hmm.
do, build overland vehicles. That's what we do. And so that was pretty, to my earlier point, that was pretty, I wouldn't say easy, but it was attainable to find those skills, and you knew the questions to ask. Foolishly, when we came here and people said, you really should start building them here, we had enough inquiries, we thought about building them. I started to put some advertisements out there to hire people, and one of the things I put out was for a vehicle builder. That doesn't exist in America. Period. There is no such trade in the United States as a vehicle builder. Doesn't
Yeah.
exist. And
Yeah.
so that our process, we had to start all over again, and that was really tricky because now we couldn't use that contractor model the way that we had before,
Mm-hmm.
because those specific. It's not about people being unskilled. I mean, the skills are clearly here. The problem for me was how do I identify those skills,
Mm-hmm.
and that became a whole new way of how do we systemize it? How do we figure out who we should be looking for, and how do we get there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's basically one more niche based skills in US versus in Australia, where the person knows how to build a vehicle basically from the start to finish kind of a thing, right? Versus in the US, it's more like, okay, you are a mechanic, you are responsible for this only kind of a thing, right? So it's a little bit more
Well,
skill based, like a more niche based skills.
a little, but again, we were trying to create that. Well, not try. We created that culture of we're going to build a different vehicle that the United States hasn't seen before or wasn't familiar with. And not
Mm-hmm.
again, we're not trying to take on the world, but we're going to make something different. And how do you explain to someone who's never built this before? We're going to make something different, and it's going to be really, really hard. And a lot of people are going to think it's a really dumb idea, but you should come and work for us anyway. This you should
Yeah,
definitely be
yeah,
here, right?
yeah,
In a
yeah,
nutshell. Right?
yeah.
And so what we did think about this a fair bit, and again, I think because it's absolutely the right thing to do, we hired a lot of former military
Mm,
personnel
really?
from
Mm,
all different disciplines of the United States military because they all had one thing in common, besides being really good people and always wanted to do the right thing. They understood about teamwork, absolutely critical. They understood that things don't always go well, but they also understood how to train and to learn. That
mm-hmm.
there's a thread through the humble experience, our experience working with people in the military is that there is a desire to learn, desire to get better, and it's about the team. And that's something that I would highly, highly, highly recommend, and it's been extremely successful for us. So even though they weren't vehicle builders, what they were though is eager, smart, hardworking
Mm-hmm.
people that said we can figure this out, and they often would apply their military training in whatever field that was from on. Okay, here's the problem, not interested in the whining about a solution. Our job here is to find the solution and how do we go about doing that. And,
Mm-hmm.
and that for us was an absolute lifesaver. That made all
Mm-hmm.
the difference in the world. And so I do believe there's threads in everything, and I do believe there's order in chaos. When we talk about systems, that
Mm-hmm.
there's always
Yeah.
something that is holding it together, and trying to discover what that is. The other part can be superfluous to it, but there's something there that holds together. And we found for us having people with a mindset of teamwork, we're going to figure this out, and they attract other people who've got a similar mindset, and
Mm-hmm.
as long as they know the direction they're supposed to be, pardon the pun, but marching in, that was a system that worked for us as and working for us extremely well,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
extraordinarily well.
Which is actually, yeah, very, very fascinating. I mean, actually fascinated by your story. Like you would never think. I mean, I've never been in the vehicle building industry, so I I have no idea like what kind of complexities are there behind the scene. Like how to find the people, as you said it. Which actually a good segue to the question that I was going to ask you. Uh, how do you measure your success, and how do you make adjustments? I mean, for your business.
So that was really difficult for us. And I know that sounds so dumb. It was difficult for us. It was difficult for me personally because, again, we like to run a good business. We understand how to do that. Because we're in such a new industry, there was not as though we couldn't really compare ourselves to a competitor and say, well, if they've got so much percentage, we should be sort of, you know, there was no one to
Mm-hmm.
follow. There was not
Yeah.
a path that we could say, well, okay, these are our benchmarks that we should be hitting by about now. We didn't have that. And we're again very, very, very small in not a remote part of the United States, but we certainly aren't in a big city. So our resources were fairly small, and we were using components that weren't common. So we really, really made our lives really hard for us. So for us to manage success was, were we delivering, and this is how we did it for ourselves, were we delivering, excuse me, on our promise to our customer? So
Mm-hmm.
we thought about how did we communicate to our customers. We looked at what media that we had, what the whether it be social media, whatever it was. If we went to a show or we went on YouTube, if there's a video, when that customer, or if that customer come to visit our place of business, would they have the exact same experience? What they were they expecting? Was it the same, or were we giving ourselves a polished version of ourselves out there, or we were actually being real?
Hmm.
And we got it so small as that, you know, just normal washers, nuts and bolts, stuff like that. A normal bolt nut washer, they have a shiny side and they have a bright side, and different applications for different things. But our training people and our QC people, I would say to them, don't ever look at at a big picture of anything. Go and look at the tiniest detail and see if everybody is putting the shiny side of the washers the same way.
Hmm.
Don't ask if they're doing any great big thing. Look at the smallest things. And that's how we chose to measure ourselves. We chose to measure ourselves on the smallest things. When our customers come to visit, are they seeing the same us? Because
Hmm.
that put we felt a, a, a standard and a way of doing things for the company is that we must always keep it real, good or bad. If what we are putting out there is not what we're doing at home, we have a problem. And
Hmm.
so we asked our customers. That's how we measured ourselves. We asked our customers is what you are seeing out there, or even if you weren't our customer and you just come to look at one, whatever, what you see out there, is that what you are seeing in here? And that was always really important. And we made sure that all of our workshop staff, office staff, always got to interact with the customer. And
Hmm.
that's how we decided to measure ourselves. Share this financial goals, absolutely. But if
Hmm.
we're not building our customers one at a time, are we really going to have any sort of long-term business success? I'm not sure you would. And it doesn't start from the top. It starts from the people wanting to do the same job well every single time.
Hmm.
And so that's what we thought we'd do. We'll start with the smallest. Maybe people think that was silly. Who cares what side the washer goes on? They're all exactly the same. Structurally, yes. But in the mindset of the people, no. That meant every little thing should be the way it's supposed to be because we are representing ourselves. And that's how we chose to measure ourselves.
Which very interesting because a lot of companies do the opposite, like literally the opposite. You go top to bottom only, so they have the vision and they kind of in consist that that vision goes down. But yeah, I see the interesting application. Then you do it bottom up. So make sure that not only the people who are, you got, they are excited, as basically as excited as you are of what you do. They also have more, they're paying attention to the little details because that's what the customers will see, right?
Mhm.
It's the when the customers see it, you will see some mishmash of things. They will probably be disappointed, right? And not what they wanted to in the
Right.
first place. So it's all basically, yes, it's not about the customer is right. It's more like you did your best to make sure that the customer will be satisfied, and that way, little by little, you can accumulate then the bigger thing, right? So that's the bottom up approach. Yeah, I actually like that.
So
Very
it,
very much like that approach.
so it was that. So just making it very clear that, if I went to a show or our salespeople went to a show, making it very clear that we are speaking for the people in the workshop doing the job. And that's, I think, is really important because we want to make sure that our people in the workshop, grinding the fiberglass and not necessarily doing all the fun stuff, we were their voice, and we wanted, and their voice was doing a good job, and we want to make sure that people heard their voice in their work, and it does create a. I think the word culture is a little bit overused, but we made tons of mistakes. We did lots of stupid things, but
Hmm.
at the end of the day, if you work at EarthCruiser, you had some pride in what you did, and I think we definitely found it difficult to scale and replicate that, and that certainly has caused us some problems. But that's the nuance, if you will, to answer your question, how do we measure ourselves? It wasn't just financial measurements. It
Mm-hmm.
was
Yeah.
how do we measure ourselves as people, and the way I thought about it is being human to the humans. If that's what you're going to do that. All I
Mm-hmm.
ask you to do, just do what you said you were going to do. Just do that.
Yeah, so that's a good way of putting it. Um, which actually, like, very interesting and fascinating story, to be honest. And I just wanted to ask because I mean my audience is all about the systematic trading as well, right? So
Sure.
that is why I'm just wondering because this is the bottom up approach is very. I mean, I see the perfect application for a business like this. But if I were to transfer this similar idea to the investment world, how would you like approach it if you were going this in investment world?
I, look, definitely your area of expertise, so I don't want to wander too far. But it
Yeah.
was interesting. A lot of our customers are very, very successful people in lots of different businesses and all sorts of things. I mean,
Hmm.
and so who they are, but very successful people because they had put themselves in a position where they controlled their time, and there was a common theme through all of our customers, whether for all walks of life, but they got in a position where they controlled their time and they had financial resources, and not some of them extremely wealthy, some of them not so much, but
Hmm.
still could afford our products, which is wonderful. But it was in the details, every single one. It was they. It, the nuance was always in the details. They wanted to know the details of not necessarily how the things are made, but why they're made the way they're made. And so perhaps an analogy with the investment world is why is it done that way? What is it seriously
Hmm.
about that makes it? A lot of people know how to make things or how something's done, and we hear it a lot. But why is it done that way? What is it that's going to make that stand the test of time and stand the inevitable scrutiny and the inevitable rough road that's going to be down the track somewhere? Why
Hmm.
is it? What is it? I mean, and really, really getting to the point of obnoxiously curious about why that is,
Hmm.
and 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 having that same question asked among the organisation, not just the spokesman or the person at the top. Does the organisation really know why they are doing it that way? Do they really know? Whatever it is, what is it? I really like the Google story very in the beginning. I mean, lots of search engines were starting at the same time, but they said, we're going to do one thing, we're going to do it better than anything else, we're going to be the fastest. Why are you going to do it be the fastest? Because people are impatient. That's it.
Hmm.
It's going to be the fastest. That's all we're going to do is the fastest. And once people know that we're the fastest, the rest will follow. But we'll be the fastest. So every effort was made, I mean, they tell us, but effort
Hmm.
was made just be the fastest. Why are you going to be for the fastest? Because people are lazy and they don't have a lot of patience. Okay.
That's so true. That is so true. I mean, it's the whole podcast is about you, but just a little a little thing that when I first started on the trading world, we had a we had another software, and there's actually a chair right there. I used to run the button, go and read book in that chair because it was so taking forever to process to crunch the numbers. So that is why I started like I was so impatient. Say, okay, I need to develop my own software so that I can speed things up. So exactly the same thing. It's like yeah, you start from saying that why that is, and yeah, I loved your question. Actually, wrote it down because I think I will use it more often with our clients because that's like the most important question to answer. If you know the why, you can answer everything else
Yeah.
around it.
Yeah. And just from our experience, is that the customers, um, they also become invested in the company, not financially, but it become part of it. And I'd imagine a good investment. You want people to really understand what you're doing and understand that there's good days and bad days, and that
Hmm.
everything is not terrific, and that this may not work out. but at least they know why.
Yeah, yeah. That's the again that's because again trading is all about psychology, and in the psychology world, if you have confidence, you can sustain whatever the drawdowns you have, whatever the upside you have, whatever happens with the economy, you can sustain it because if you know the why is something's happening, you have the confidence that you can weather it, you can be fine, then you will not do some stupid stuff basically. So
Mhm.
that is why, like, it's all about the why. Yeah, I love that. I really love it. I used to work in the corporate world myself. I was a chief architect on the software side and technical architect. And when I was hiring people, I always was asking them a question, and it was always the, like, I don't know if you know that little story. There was a little test that you can do to people, and you ask, let's say, saying that Lance, I'm hiring you as a consultant for me, right? And you, let's say, my consultant, my contractor that who is supposed to construct something for me, and I'm telling you, like, Lance, I have a project for you where I want you to move Mount Everest. Now you go. And the thing is, what do you ask back? What was your first question back to me as a consultant, basically, what do you want to know from me?
I
What
say,
would be your
why
first
would you
question?
do that?
Why, right? That's the first question. Why would you want to do that? Why on earth? I mean, you don't want to move Mount Everest, right? So that's kind of a test I was always asking in an interview when I was trying to hire the technical architects or any kind of architects. Because if they didn't know, if they didn't ask me the why, if they said how much you have or what kind of tools will I have, that's the wrong thing to do. Because I mean, why on earth I need to move Mount Everest? Maybe because it blocks the sun in the morning. Well, how about we move your house? you know?
Yeah. All right. Well, I love it. Yeah, it's good. Very good.
Yeah. So yeah, I love that the why question that you ask. I mean, that's beauty. That's beauty, and how you put it together for investment world as well. And any last things you wanted to talk about from your side? I mean, any words of wisdom, because you've got a lot of words of wisdom, to be
I
honest.
wouldn't say that. So it was something that we are still dealing with as our little organisation. Is that when have you ever heard the innovator's dilemma? Are you familiar with that?
uh, Heard of it, but yeah, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So innovator, I'll give you my understanding. All right. So I've got this lovely pen here.
Hmm.
All right. So this fella Lance developed that pen because he really wanted a really good pen. Couldn't find a pen, so he made a pen, and he made it in his backyard, and he could make it for $1. Right. And so great. And he had a few friends. He said, "That's a really nice pen. Can you make me some pens?" And he said, "I'll make them in my backyard. I can make them for $1. It's $1. Great." So he fast forward, a couple of years. Now Lance has got lots of customers buying these pens for $1, but now he's got to hire some staff. He's got to get a new
Yeah,
building. He's got to
yeah.
get a website. He's got to pay taxes. He's got to do all this stuff. So now, all of a sudden, he spends $2. And so people have been watching him for a while, and as I said, a few years gone down the track, and they come back and say, "Oh, those pens you got for $1, I'd really like some." And they go, "Oh, look, I'm sorry, mate, I can't sell them for $1 anymore. They're $2." And people go, "Look, we've been fans of you for years. We've been telling all our friends about you, and now you're telling me you've doubled your price for your pens. I'm going to go
Hmm.
home. I'm going to make my own pen for $1." That's the innovator's dilemma. Is that when you're the first one out doing it, as the
Ah,
things creep
yeah.
up, the one thing that you were good at, well, still good at, other people see I can do that too because you have made a way for others to follow.
Hmm.
And it's difficult to solve the innovative dilemma. Generally speaking, you either scale the company and so you can make that pen for $1 again, or you might make it, offshore it. You might go make it somewhere else and just
Hmm.
use your good name. And so that's an interesting thing. I mean, and that's something we had really struggled with was how do we scale now that more people are enjoying this lifestyle that once upon a time was more for the more wealthy people. We were making it so more people could enjoy it, and it's great, and it's a thing that's people really want to do. They may not have the control over their time, so they may not have the financial resources, but
Mm-hmm.
they still wanted to do it. So how do you make it cheaper? How do you make it more affordable?
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, the innovator's dilemma. You've
Yeah.
started it, more people want to do it, and now you're no longer in a position to take advantage or keep growing with a movement or with a, a a new experience for people to have. And there's analogies everywhere. I mean, you mentioned earlier Apple. I mean, Apple, that's exactly what happened to Apple.
Yeah.
When they
Yeah.
started that terrific computer, they nearly went bankrupt. How many times?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
because other companies said, that's a really good idea. We can make that better and cheaper. But in the early days, everybody was friends. Steve Jobs was friends with all of them, and because it was different. It was different. But once it started to become a outside of a niche, outside of a started to become normal, the customers' expectations changed
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and things changed. And so the words of wisdom that I'm not sure they're wisdom, but me personally, I went looking for some people to help me with that change. And I discovered this in myself is that I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to hire the people to help with what we could see as an inevitable change to scale the company. And that's where we went into some real trouble. We had a really good thing going. We could see if we didn't change, we would be absolutely left behind from
Mm-hmm.
something we had started. I mean, those that start the fire don't always get to sit around the warmth. And we didn't want to be that. We wanted to be that. And
Mm-hmm.
so I thought for my own experience, I was definitely punching too high above my weight on how to get those executives around us to help us with the next stage. And it was pretty horrible. I made some terrible hires, and they really started to ruin was a really good company. And we're getting it back on track now, and things will actually be terrific. But it was a pretty horrible 12 months, 18 months. It was really bad, really awful.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, I don't know how one does it differently. I mean, I just don't know. I mean, we all have skill sets, and we try to do the very best we can with what we have. And even when you do, and think you're doing it okay, doesn't mean you're going to get it right. And I would say the biggest lesson is, and I've always sort of already knew this, but even more so, be careful of the people that you have around you. It's
Mm-hmm.
very
Mm-hmm.
true that we'll
Yeah.
be known by our friends. And I chose poorly, and which generally speaking, I don't, but I realized I was operating in a world that I did not understand. I thought I did, and I was wrong. And I learnt a lot. I understand that world now. I wish I learnt the
Mm-hmm.
lesson differently or at a different
Or
time.
faster, right?
Well, yeah. So I don't know,
Yeah.
mate, if that makes a lot of sense, but
Oh yeah, it does.
I think
Yeah.
it's super important, and I can see that I'm sure it happens all the time, but it's rough. It's no fun, but every day is a new day.
Yeah, that well said, well said, and it's so true for everyone. I think at some point in life, I mean, we had all our own rough patches, one way or the other.
Yep.
In businesses or just professional life, it doesn't matter. Even love life, it doesn't matter which one it is, right? We
Right.
all
Yeah.
had the same thing, and
Yeah.
uh, it's just the perseverance is the most important part too. Like, how do you survive and not just succumb to the circumstances? How do
Yeah.
you move forward, right?
Yeah. And how do you know? Should you say, okay, maybe this is how this ends? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
How do you
yeah,
know? You don't. You don't. And so,
yeah. That is.
like, so I guess all I can say is that the sun will come up tomorrow. So let's make sure we're
That's
there to
true.
see it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
At least for the next few billion years, we'll be fine. I think with the
Well,
sun
let's
coming up,
let's
at
hope
least,
so.
unless something else will happen. So,
Yeah.
then let's say very liked our episode today, and seriously, you brought so many good points. actually a lot more than I expected, to be honest. So very much thank you for this.
No,
And
thank you.
I just want to make sure that people can, if they want to learn more about EarthCruiser, so
Yeah,
let
sure.
us know how to reach
Yeah.
it, and what you offer, because again, probably as you said, American people are not as familiar with that
Yeah.
stuff.
So yeah,
Yeah.
so the company is called EarthCruiser. Find us at earthcruiser.com. And essentially we build overland vehicles just for people who just really want to go and see the world. I mean, whatever your world is. I mean, we have customers that literally drive around the world constantly, and we have other customers who just love to go and spend, their summers on the beach, in Baja surfing, whatever. I mean, so
Hmm.
essentially that's what we do. I mean, the recreational vehicle industry in the United States is enormous, but we feel that there is people who don't necessarily want to know where the next destination is. They want to find it as they're going along, and they are our customers. We provide a vehicle where people can, if they want to stay wherever, they can stay wherever. They're very self-sufficient. It's just fun. It's just a great way to live. It's
Yeah, it is.
get
Yeah.
yourself off
Yeah.
that clock. So yeah, that's what we do. Yeah,
That is so true. Yeah. So once again, thank you for coming to this episode. I really gained a lot of interesting points. Actually, wrote it down because I love that your points. I will use it in my life now. So thank you very much for that.
really appreciate
And
your time.
yeah, and I also had fun at the same time. So it wasn't just a boring. Uh,
Life's short.
Interview, right? That it was
Yeah.
really, really interesting and fun interview. So I wish you all well, and till next time for the
Likewise.
next episode.
All right. Take care.
Okay, okay. Thanks. Bye.